Welcome to the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and share their inspiring stories. Now, let's get started with the show.
Matthew Connor here, host of the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature successful business leaders, top law firms, green energy companies, and more. I'm very excited to introduce today's guest. Not only is he the host of The Guts and Glory Show, the author of the upcoming book, It Has to Hurt, but with over 400,000 followers on Instagram, he's also a social media influencer. On top of all of that, he's also the owner of eight-figure firm consulting and the managing partner and COO of Bader Scott. He's Louise Scott. Louise, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
All right. Glad to have you. Before we get too far into it, a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. Cyberlinks is a complete technology solution provider that ensures your business not only has the most reliable and professional IT service, but also has the right cybersecurity solutions to ensure your business stays productive and safe. At Cyberlinks, you're not going to get some high-pressure sales pitch or a bunch of geek speak. Their sole focus is on helping your business solve its problems while staying safe from threats online. So if you're having IT issues, if you're not completely happy with your current IT provider, or you're not 100% sure if you're completely safe from hackers and cyber threats, give the folks at Cyberlinks a call. They help companies all across the nation. And if they can't help you, they'll put you in contact with someone who can. Check them out at cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. And now back to our show. Louise, thanks again for coming on the show. This is going to be great.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Okay. So there's just so much to unwrap here. And we love founder stories, and you've started a couple of really great companies. So I'm going to give you your pick as to which company you want to go off of and kind of tell the story, because I really like getting into that, the initial startup, how did you do it, those first employees, because I think every entrepreneur has gone through that, and I think it's really fun to hear the different approaches that people take.
Yeah, absolutely. I started my journey into entrepreneurship many years ago when I worked for 1 week with this criminal defense attorney, and he showed up, and I won't tell you the whole story because it's a super dramatic story, but I just remember him collecting about $2,500 and leaving that day. And it was the moment that I realized I didn't want to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a law firm owner. And so that kind of like pushed me into entrepreneurship. And I wanted to be, I wanted to be the owner. I wanted to be the person who called the shots. And so when I started my firm, originally the Scott Law Firm before I had a partner, it was a lot of grinding, and it was a lot of the things that I've learned over the last 15 years. And I always say that it took me 15 years to become an overnight success. And hiring your first people, getting your first clients is always very, very difficult at the beginning, creating that initial momentum and inertia. But I started using some of the tools and resources that I teach when I consult different law firms on how to grow their business. And within 5 months, had about 100 clients. And as they say, the rest is history. And today, we have almost 200 employees and sign up about 6,000 clients a year for the law firm. So it's pretty what I would call a meteoric type of rise over the last 5 years.
Wow. Yeah. Only in 5 years. That's spectacular. All right. Well, let me ask you. So we're both big fans of Gary Vee. And I noticed that, you've got obviously really great Instagram following. I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, they'll hear Gary Vee, give out the playbook and say, just post. You've obviously done that. I'm kind of curious, did you start with the 0 followers and really just kind of post, and now you're at 400K? Is that how it worked?
Yeah, I mean, not exactly like that. I had about probably 900 to 1,000 followers. I wasn't doing much with Instagram or really any of my platforms. I never posted on LinkedIn. I never really posted on any platform because I was just scared of what people were going to say. And I think most people are very camera shy. They don't like how they look or sound. And what I've told people is that the more you do it, the less you worry about it. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. And so I think part of it is just doing, being repetitive. But I really locked into what Gary Vee was saying. And I decided about a year ago to start posting 2 or 3 times a day. And then most recently, almost 5 to 10 times a day. And what happened was that between all of my sites, so Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, if you're posting, 5 times a day and each post gets 1,000, well, 5 times 5 platforms is 25 times 1,000. That's 1,000 views that you're getting. And so the aggregation of all that viewership is what started to grow. And I won't say it was all organic, because we did do paid as well. And so we would drive people to our platforms. We would drive people to our website. Recently, I spent about $3,000 in a month, which, if you listen to Alex Hormozy, is a chump change. I mean, I think he said he spent $240,000 in a 3-month period of time, but I spent $3,000 in a month and drove almost 10,000 people to our website. And so the key to this is not only posting a lot and posting great content that people want to listen to and they want to replay, but also reaching to areas that you would normally not reach if you didn't spend the money. So putting a little paid spend, and all of that helped. And Instagram's only one location, but Facebook has also grown dramatically. I've gained thousands of followers there. And on LinkedIn, I think I've gained in the last year maybe 5,000 followers there. So I'm starting to see the same system work. And TikTok is really where there's a lot of opportunity. I think that I have maybe 3 or 4 videos that have reached almost 100,000 in views on TikTok, and it's just a matter of just keep the content flowing, and you'll see that starts resonating with the people in your audience.
That's fantastic. So let me ask you, when you go about that, because here at the Cyber Business Podcast, we really like to. Our audience really is that kind of entrepreneur, business owner. So I think most business owners are kind of reluctant to get into it, just as you said, camera shy and whatnot. But then on top of that, it's the content itself, right? So do they hire somebody to follow them around with a camera and shoot it and do the editing? What avenue did you take when you started doing it?
Originally, I just started capturing my own content and having people edit it, and then I started hiring people to help me film the content. But what I will tell people is that it depends on your skill set and your financial ability. The better you are at it, the more likely it is that you will do some of the work yourself. If you're not good at it at all and you don't have any money, then you're going to have to either get good at it or find the money. So to me, the beautiful, I guess, like meshing together is when you're good at it and you have the money. That's where you could really build tremendous scale. But if you have the financial means to hire a team, I would definitely encourage people to hire a team of people. And by that, I don't mean full time. There are a lot of outfits out there that we can recommend that actually will do the work and will capture the content, edit the content, and then provide it for you to be posted. And so if you have the financial means, do that. And if you don't, then get really good with your phone, because your phone, incredible at filming. And I can show videos, and I have shown videos to people, and I've said, was this filmed on a professional camera or a phone? And they can't tell the difference.
Yeah, that's great. And everybody's got a pretty decent phone these days, especially in business owners. So, let me ask you, so, first of all, I really like your show. It takes kind of, I don't want to say necessarily a self-help kind of approach. But, I really like self-help books. I like self-help, kind of podcasts. And yours really takes that kind of direction, and you address a lot of really cool issues that I think a lot of entrepreneurs kind of struggle with just naturally. They may be great lawyers or great accountants or great IT people or whatever it is, but it's the like you said, being that business owner. And so you've got a lot of really great content already on your podcast. So kudos there. Really loved going through some of that. And to tie this back to your social, you have a really cool episode where you talk about, kind of the celebrity, do, your own personal brand.
Yes.
And so, have you seen, just, can you talk about your experience with that branding going from, business owner, just kind of running your business to then, building out your brand and the effect and result that's had on your business?
Oh, absolutely. Because of the law firm, I started a consulting business where I help people actually grow their law firm. And there's 2 numbers that I'm going to give you, the number 2,000 and the number 10,000. And that'll tell you the whole story. When I started working with law firms, before I had a brand, I was charging $2,000 per month to work with a client. Today, I charge $10,000 per month to work with the exact same client. The power of the brand and the power of the celebrity is that the bigger your brand is, the more you can command. The bigger your brand is, the more credibility you have. the bigger your brand is, the better authority you present in the marketplace. And so brand is everything. And so if you are the baker or you're an accountant, if you're a celebrity, you're going to charge more. Just think about those what do they call it? Cake Boss, I think is the show on the Food Network. That guy charges thousands, 20,000, 30,000 to make a cake. And there are people right now who can't get somebody to buy a cake for $200. And it's because the bigger your brand is, the more influential you become in the marketplace and the more your time is worth. And so it's been incredible for us as we've seen our fee go from 2,000 to 10,000 a month. And now we're approaching 8 figures in revenue as well within about 3 years. And so that's all because of the brand.
That's fantastic. So what advice would you give to a business that's looking to follow in your footsteps and kind of, work on the brand and whatnot? What advice would you give them?
So I would say develop your brand, identify it intentionally, know what the brand is first that you want to put out there. And the brand you want to put out there is the brand that you feel comfortable putting out there. And so know what that brand is, understand the offer that you're making to the community. How do they benefit working with your brand? What are all the things that they need to know about working with you that's going to enhance their life? And then the number 3 is get your brand in front of as many people as you possibly can through networking, through podcasts, through writing, through blogging, website, paid, organic social media, whatever you can do to get your name out there. You want to create the celebrity effect. One of my mentors used to always say that fame is a great business plan. And I absolutely agree with him.
That's wise words. So, looking at how you've gone about that, with in terms of things like SEO and online marketing. I think you kind of hinted at it earlier, where it kind of all comes together. But in your experience, did you guys focus more on things like SEO, paid ads, like Google ads, or and did you see the big explosion once you got into social? So how did you start, and what was your transition to where you are now in terms of marketing?
Yeah, I think it depends on what you're selling, what kind of service you're selling, what kind of product you're selling. And to me, I always tell people they have to answer this question: where do I find my client? Where is my client located? And so if you have X type of client and the demographic of that client is whatever it is going to be different than another type of client with a different demographic. So where do you find them? Recently, I had a lawyer who does a certain practice area that the majority of his clients are a lot older, in their 60s and 70s. Well, where do you find those clients? Reading the newspaper. And so he decided that he was going to put an ad in the newspaper because his clientele still reads the newspaper. So you have to know where your client can be found. Can your client be found online? Can they be found on social media? Can they be found clicking on pay-per-click ads? Can they be found organically? Where is your client? I had another story of a client who was they were into tennis and they had joined a tennis club. And they said that at one point they were getting the majority of their business from this tennis club. That was where they got their business, but they decided to get out of it because they were no longer playing tennis and their business went down and they didn't know why. And as soon as they tell me the story, I said, well, it's very obvious. Your client can be found at the tennis club. You need to go immediately join the tennis club because that's where your client is. So I think you first identify where your client can be found, and then you start marketing there in heavy quantities. This all depends on your financial means. But if your client can be found on Facebook, you need to be there. And not every client can be found on Facebook. Sometimes the client can only be found on TikTok or Instagram or LinkedIn. And so you have to know your client and then go to where they are and make sure that your presence is felt no matter where they are.
That's well said. I think a lot of businesses fall into that category. They're just like, well, we should just add, the latest and greatest is Facebook, or the latest and greatest is Google AdWords. So, and they're always kind of behind the power curve, and they're not finding their audience. And so they're just kind of wasting their money because, that might not be where their clients are. So
100%. 100%.
All right. So we also, at the Cyber Business Podcast, part of the cyber portion of this, we like to try to bring that into the conversation, because I think, cyber affects every business these days. It doesn't matter what it is. And some people are like, well, what's cyber? Right. Okay. Fair enough. Fair question. Right. But really, everybody's online. Everybody is a potential, target. So, and then now by this point, most people have got a pretty good story, to some degree of, oh, either they got hit by some sort of cyber attack or, somebody they knew did. And so I'm kind of curious, you work with a lot of law firms and so do we. And for them, security is really important. What have you seen in terms of cyber from your perspective? Any sort of major, transitions lately or things, threats that you're seeing with people?
Yeah, recently, something that I'd never experienced before was that employees in my firm were receiving text messages from me, like quote unquote from me. And then it would be from an unrecognized number and it would say something like, "Hey, Sarah, this is Luis. I just want to let you know I'm going to be running late and I needed somebody to go by Target and pick up 10 gift cards. Can you pick up the gift cards, scratch them off, and tell me the number so that I can use them?" And it was wild because they were sending a text message to a known and active employee of the firm with their name. And so it made it very legitimate. But fortunately, we have smart enough people where they would send us a message and, to our, "Hey, did you change your phone number?" just to see if we would respond. I was like, "No, that's not us. Definitely don't get me 10 gift cards from Target. I don't need that. I would never ask you." We have this policy in the firm that me and my business partner, we never ask anybody for money. So if you're being asked for money from us, it's not from us, right? Which may be a lesson within itself. You should probably stop asking people for money, and then they would never assume that you need money, right? But that was one of the things that I saw. But the scariest thing that recently happened to one of my clients is that somebody in their financial department received an email, and the email said, "We need you to confirm the wire transfer to this bank account to this routing number as by the end of the business day, because your payroll is not going to go through." And it looked like a legitimate email. It looked like it came right from the processing center. Didn't check to see if the email was actually from there, and began the initiation process of wiring $100,000 to this other entity. And fortunately, because of their checks and balances, one of the officers caught that and was like, this email comes from outside. This is not an internal email. Like, this is a fake email. We're not going to wire money to this new bank. And they were able to catch it, and it was in fact fraud. And so my recommendation is, if you're getting an email that seems a little off, see who it's from, because that is on the rise. And I do think that is a big threat to people right now. Is just being scammed out of different information.
100%. And in fact, the funny part is, so we've seen now a few years ago there, going back to your texting example, a few years ago, if a hacker was going, there was the possibility that if you were a high target, a high value target, let's say the CEO of a very large, company, a celebrity, a politician, bad guys would go and they would attempt to clone your phone, your SIM card in your phone. So either they can get with your phone carrier, prove that they're you, and then transfer all your stuff to their SIM so they can then access all of your accounts. Because once you've got access to somebody's cell, you can get all their email and everything else by saying, "Hey, I lost my, my whatever password," right? And then so that was a thing that was almost, it was just ridiculous to think that a small business would get that. Now we're seeing small business being hit with that exact thing, but now cloning their SIM card. So not even calling their phone company, but cloning the SIM card so that when they go and say they forgot their password, the text message, or they log in with the right password, the text message goes to them, to both of them, and then they log right in. So that was science fiction, for a small business. It was fiction, 4, 5, 6 months ago. Now it's a reality. Thanks to AI and everything, they're getting so advanced. It's like, it's a whole nother world out there now.
Yeah, and the thing is that it's for the threat, it's easy money, because once you know how to do it, if you have no moral conscience and you have no moral compass about what you do, it's easy money. You don't have to get out of your house. You can just do it all digitally, and it's a faceless crime, because they don't have to see their victim, and so it does in those circles where criminality is not looked down upon, it does raise all kinds of issues.
Well, you mentioned, having that moral conscience, and I think it's such a breath of fresh air, to hear you talk about that. And I think that the pendulum of, separation of church and state, I think it's swung a little too far out there, and people are, as they lose, it's not just about religion, but it's about the morals and the ethics. And as people tend to separate from religion, and they try not to bring it into their business and into the government and into, their professional lives, it's really easy to kind of put morals and ethics with religion.
Mhm.
And so when I meet other business leaders who, they tend to be more religious, they're also more ethical and moral, which I think is, no matter where that pendulum's swinging, we want them to, to keep their morals, even if they want to leave, God or religion, at the door. Fine. I don't know that you need to go that far, but I noticed that you bring it in, and every really, the business people I love working with are the same way. They don't have a problem talking about their morals and their religion. They're not trying to convert you. But I think that, we've just seen it go so far. And so I wanted to say, I really appreciate that in your podcast and everything else, because, you're dealing with somebody who genuinely wants to do good for their clients. So that's nice
Yeah,
to see.
one of the things that's interesting about fallible human beings is that the desire to do good and the ability to do good are not always matched. Sometimes we have a strong desire to do good, but for whatever reason, we don't have the ability. Maybe we have some sort of trauma in our life that doesn't allow us to do good in a certain situation. But the desire to do good is something that I feel like we're losing in our society. People no longer desire to do what's good and right. They just desire to do what's good for them, or what's comfortable to them, or what makes them happy in the moment. And if we do lose sight of, that 80-20 rule, 80% of the people following the rules and the laws, we will create an environment where nobody is safe and nobody feels any kind of trust towards their fellow man. And that's not a place that I want to live, very difficult.
I'm right there with you. And I argue to say that, I mean, while most of the people, it's really got to be more like 99% of the people, are doing good, and 1% certainly not, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the black and white. But I think that, as it relates to business and religion, I think that it's really interesting. You talked. I saw one of your podcast episodes. You were talking about, the confidence to sell,
Mm.
and I think that's so important, for businesses. But interestingly, I think, at least in the U.S., I think if you look at the guilt that a lot of people have associated with money, whether it's, our, you know from historically, that was an issue people debated, that, and still to this day, I think there's a debate that, so much money is bad, and a lot of people think that, and so you see a lot of people thinking socialism's the way, which clearly it's not.
Mhm.
And I think that you and I'll let you speak for yourself, but I think we have a different perspective on that, and I'd really like to hear what your thoughts are on the whole guilt with money, and yet, the kind of the religious and moral position with money. How do you
Yeah,
feel
I mean,
about
I
that?
think, I mean, I don't know. A lot of people have a very unique and interesting relationship with money, and this is a concept that I heard many years ago, and that's, have you defined the relationship you have with money? And looking into your background and looking into the historical context of your life, was money treated as a bad thing? You're likely going to look at it as a bad thing, and you're not going to make any money. I had a friend of mine who about 2 years ago admitted that he grew up in an environment that was very anti-capitalist, and so his father would routinely say negative things about money and capitalists and this and that. And so he found himself as a business owner, an entrepreneur. He found himself guilty for building his business. He did not want to make money. Even though he was an entrepreneur, he owned a business, and he found himself he was self-sabotage, because in his mind, a good son does not go on the capitalism train, does not make money, because money is bad and it ruins people's lives. And it wasn't until I started working with him, actually in a friendship capacity, where I told him that he needs to confront that relationship with money that he had, and that he needed to tell his dad that he did not agree with his viewpoint on money, and that he was going to make enough money to send the entire family on a 2-week trip to a particular destination. I don't want to say the destination. I don't want to reveal who this person is, but he wanted to do that. And the next thing you know, 18 months later, his company went from a $50,000 business to a $1 million business just by changing the way that he perceived money. And so I think that a lot of guilt about money comes from the influence of others. But if we view money as a tool and a resources to help other people, it begins to take new life. And for me, money is all it's a transfer. It's a transfer between the good that I do. I get compensated for that. So the more money that I have, it means the more good that I have done, and then I can take that money and funnel it to good organizations and help other people. And so, if you're feeling guilty about money out there, you really need to study why you are where you are and figure out a way to get out of it, because that's going to be the thing that changes your life.
I couldn't agree more. And that's a great story. I mean, 18 months to go from 50,000 to a million. That's quite a transition. And
Yes.
you also mentioned it in that, I think it might have been that selling podcast episode where you were talking about people's comfort with the value that they bring, and all of this stuff kind of ties back into that core principle of, if you're doing, you can do well by doing good, right? Or and I think that that kind of comes across in your podcast, that look, you believe that and you genuinely want to help people in your business, versus I think so many people see all these shysters and con artists and people flaunting money who aren't actually creating any value. You see, it's really easy to villainize Wall Street because a lot of them aren't necessarily creating value. You get like these a Bitcoin exchange that steals billions of dollars of in value, and not their goal was not to help people, and I think that comes back to the morals and ethics of it. The if we could bring just a little bit more of that into business and help people see that you're doing good, and you talk about it in your podcast, and I think it's great. And I just think there needs to be more of that. Look, you can do well by doing good stuff.
100%. Here's the thing. There's a common misconception that money creates greed. And what I tell people is money only reveals it. But there's a lot of poor, greedy people. There's a lot of poor, people who are selfish and self-centered and greedy and entitled and spoiled brats. A lot of poor people like that, right? Because money doesn't create it, simply reveals it. And so if you're good and you make money, you're going to be good. And if you're spoiled, greedy brat and you make money, you're going to be a spoiled, greedy brat. And that's what we see in the marketplaces. We see people who are spoiled, greedy brats, who are not good people, who have figured out a way to generate money. And then we use that as somehow and make an assessment that everyone who has money is like that. But that's not the way it is at all. It's the good people that you don't hear about that often. But there's a lot of good people out there with money.
Well said. So let me ask you, you do so much. I mean, between, running two very successful and large businesses by any measure, your podcast, your social media, how do you manage your time to get all of that done? How do you do it?
Originally, I didn't manage it very well. I was working a lot, and I realized that I needed to put a lot of more of my energy into the things that I enjoyed the most, which were my family and being able to create an impact in the community. And so what I decided to do is I was going to outsource anything that was not making money or with my family. I was going to outsource. And so I started finding help, whether that was an executive assistant, an operations assistant, a great team to help me with my podcast or my social media. And I started outsourcing. So where I became only engaged in the things that actually help me make money or help me with my family. And so today, those are the only two activities that I do. I'm either with my family or I'm making money. And when I'm making money, I'm not like your typical person who works and they work 45 minutes and need a 15-minute break. I can go 8 to 9 hours nonstop without a break, except maybe to use the restroom or something, but nonstop, no lunch. I go through it. The benefit of that is if you go 8 hours from 7 to 3, you have a full day. If you go 9 hours, 7 to 4, you have a full day. And if you do that over an extended period of time, you're going to create a tremendous amount of value. So I just get really laser focused on my work. And my meeting, if you were to look at my schedule, it's scripted because I have a great assistant. They script my day. It's from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, and I execute. And at the end of the day, I feel satisfied that I've done everything I need to do. So I'm always looking for a way to work at the maximum capacity so that I can enjoy vacation. And that's one of the reasons I tell people when I say I take 7 weeks of vacation a year, I need it because when I'm working, I'm working. And so when I'm done with work, I feel fully satisfied, and you need that rest time too.
Love it. So in terms of finding that help, right, to the good assistant, all the people that you kind of outsource all those things that aren't making money or spending time with your family, what advice or tips do you have for that?
Hire people that are like you. What I mean by that is hire people that have your character, your core values, that have your similar personality. Like my operations assistant, we both love The Office. We're both very alike, both similar humor, and so it makes the work experience a lot easier. Same thing with my executive assistant. We have similar personalities, and so I'm a big fan of hiring people that you like and that you would like to be around. And when you do that, you can overcome any obstacle. And it's going to take some time. Figuring out what your key employee avatar is takes a little bit of time. But sit down and write down what are the key characteristics that I want in the person who works for me, and make sure that they're similar to you in some capacity, that have skill sets that you don't have, but that they're similar to you. And if you do that, then you'll have a good marriage of help.
Love it. All right. And then, shifting gears back to the cyber side. So for your law firm, let's say, in terms of IT and cyber, what do you guys do? What is your focus? Are is it in-house? Do you outsource your IT? How do you guys handle that?
So currently we have kind of like a blend of outsourced and in-house. We have a couple of people in-house that help with some of the software and IT, but the majority of the responsibility is outsourced. And we have an outsourced company we've used for about, I guess, 5 or 6 years at this point. And you pay per user, but we're currently exploring, because of the threat of cyber threat that's arisen within really what feels like the last year. We're currently exploring making sure that we're as secure as we possibly can. I don't believe that we necessarily hold that sensitive of information, that would be of that much use. But there are things that people could do to scam the organization that could cost us money. And so we want to make sure that we just tighten everything up, and look for the right solution there.
Nice. Always smart. Well, let me ask you, Mac PC, are you guys a Mac group, PC group?
We're a Mac. Yeah, we use Macs right now.
Yeah. Big fans. Same here. Okay. So I got to tell you, I'm really glad that you took the time to come on the show today. You've got, so much going on, and to take the time to share it with our guests, we're honored. But before we go, can you tell everybody where they can find out more about you, your social, your new book that's coming out?
Absolutely.
Pleasure.
Yeah, you can find me at luisscottjr.com. That's LUISSCOTTJR.com. And you can find all my links there, my speaking engagement link, the 8-figure firm link, the law firm, and all my social media platforms there as well. And they can contact me on that site.
Luis, you're the best. This has really been a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show. I look forward to talking to you again.
All right. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Cyber Business Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.